Hi friends, before we start this episode, I just wanted to let you know that here in From Someone Who Gets It, we have raw, vulnerable conversations, and sometimes those conversations can trigger others. I want to let you know that in this season, we touch on suicide, infertility, PTSD, and everything in between. So if those are some subjects that are triggering to you, I just want to let you know that you're heard and you're seen and you're not alone. This podcast is for you, and I hope you join us. Hi everyone, welcome to From Someone Who Gets It, a podcast about life, mental health, and everything in between. I'm your host, Marcela, and this season I'll be sitting down with some of my favorite people having raw, vulnerable conversations about goals, dreams, life, and mental health. Every Monday you can find our episodes on the Cultura Talks channel, and I hope you join in. Hello everyone, welcome back to From Someone Who Gets It. I'm your host, Marcela. Today I am sitting down with one of my really good friends. She is a mom, an educator, a content creator, social media icon, Betty Pastelito. I'm so happy you're here with me today.
I'm super happy to finally be here.
I know we've been trying, but you're out here being a super mom.
I don't know how.
Being a super mom, a super creative. First of all, it's that I look at you and you inspire me in so many different ways.
Thank you.
But I think one of the biggest things is that through all the craziness of life, you find a way to still create content that brings people so much joy.
Thank you for saying that. That's all I want to do and be for people.
Yeah, it's insane. And I've known you for a while. We met in 2018.
Yeah, 17, 18.
Yeah, doing a QME together. Which was interesting to say the least.
A fun journey.
But it was fun, and I think it showed us this world of Instagram and social media
what's possible
that I didn't know we could do. Everybody knows who Betty Pastelito is.
Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that.
Everybody.
Even Pitbull?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Can you
Pitbull,
imagine?
listen, if you're watching this, come hang out with us.
Come.
This is
I will be back.
Listen, we are the people that you want to hang out with in Miami.
Yes, absolutely.
It's funny because Junior, what was it, 2 weeks, last week or the week before, it was the comedy show at Casa Tiki. Junior asked me, if you had to do a stand-up, who would be your opening act? And what did I say? Betty Pastelito.
Me.
I did.
Thank you.
I was like, Betty Pastelito. So let's talk about who Betty is, because I know Betty.
Okay.
I want everyone at home to know who you are. Where did Betty Pastelito come from?
Okay. So my name, Betty Pastelitos, how I made it up is when I graduated high school, I went to FSU for 2 years.
Okay.
And we had to make up a username for a forum. And I never liked my maiden name. And I was like, and I want to put something that shows that I'm from Miami. I want to show all these kids in Tallahassee, I'm from Miami. And I don't know how I came up with Pastelitos. And it's just something that rolls off the tongue. Betty Pastelitos, nothing else would have made sense. Betty Pan Cubano, nothing like that would have, but Betty Pastelitos just it. So it stuck. So every time I had to make usernames for socials, because back then socials wasn't as big as it is now.
Right.
So every time I've had to make a username for anything, it's Betty Pastelitos.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know that story, and I love that. So you went to FSU
for 2 years,
which is fine. I'm a Gator, but I'll allow
and
it.
then I went to UM, and I am a die-hard Cane.
She when I say die hard, you are die hard.
Yes.
Yes. So you got into the social media scene 2017, 2018, when I feel like it started really becoming a thing.
And it's evolved a lot since then too.
A lot. And I feel like you found your niche.
Yes.
Which is really cool to see.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about how you developed this character of Betty Pastelito. Because I feel like she is a little bit of a character. Yeah. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, and how I embody somebody.
Right.
Yeah. So it took me a while to find my niche. niche
Yeah.
on Instagram and socials, because that whole thing of like find one, be specific, find one, be specific. So I kind of like toyed in a couple different things, because none of us are just this one thing. And it's cool if you find this one specialization. But for me, it was really hard. Like my ADHD brain, the fact that I like so many things, like I embrace that I'm multifaceted. So I like toyed around in a couple little things. I was never really consistent. But it was always this theme of like, I like education, I like kids, I like being a mom, I like being Latina, I like being from Miami. And I somehow was able to package that all up into Betty Pastelitos.
Yeah.
And then once I started getting more consistent and taking it more seriously and really honing in into who I am, like an educator, I really think that helped a lot. Like for so long, I tried to fight like being a teacher and being in education because of the pay and this and that. Like it can be seen as such a like low level job, but at the end of the day, teachers are the most important thing that exists.
And I don't think that people talk enough about really teachers, what they do to you
and to
younger,
society,
to your brain, to your psyche.
I always think about you, how you talk about this one teacher you had in high school. I always remember that.
She was my first grade teacher and then became my fourth grade teacher.
Okay.
And I mean, she's the one that taught me how to read.
Yeah.
In first grade. And then in fourth grade was the one that taught me how to write, and like my love for like writing and all of that.
Yeah, and as an actress, reading and writing. That's all you need.
and she, and the teacher who like, the first time I went to go see a show, she's the one that I like, all of that. And Miss Salazar, Maggie Salazar, to this day, I'll never like, I think about her all the time because she's a teacher who I grew up with learning disabilities. I'm dyslexic. I had a really, really, really hard time at school. If you ask me, I hate school. I hate everything about it because I had a really hard time.
Yeah.
And I had teachers who didn't really understand how my brain worked in a time that no one really talked about ADHD. It wasn't really looked at as like a girl thing.
I was about to say, and especially in a girl.
Right. So ADHD was never something that was talked about. Like being neurodivergent and not knowing it when you're younger.
And in a Latina community.
Oh my God, it was.
In Hialeah.
Yeah. It was hard to say the least. And I felt like Miss Salazar realized, okay, she learns a little different from all of us, which is totally okay. Let me see how I can help her do this task.
I love that.
So I remember like
one time for Miss Salazar.
One time for Miss Salazar. And she follows me and everything. So Miss Salazar, we love you. And she was just like the type of teacher who was like, okay, I have to sit down with her and open the book and really go word by word.
My heart.
Yeah. And she did it without a problem, without an issue. But then I had other teachers who were like, oh, well, she's not putting enough effort. And it's like, yeah. I remember switching from elementary school. I was in a public school. Then in middle school, I went to a Catholic private school, which I think have now, Catholic private schools have evolved. But back then, there was no like different levels. Everyone was in the same level. You learn the same way. And if
aprende.
Yeah, catch up. And if not, I remember my first semester, I got home and I had 3 Fs in my report card. Never in my life. Like I was always a C student. And I think C for me was like,
I did it.
It's
average.
And I remember coming home with 3 Fs. I got in so much trouble with like my uncle and my like aunt. And it was just, I look back and I think.
That wasn't your fault.
Right. I look back and I think, wow, if we would have taken the fault, I'm going to get emotional.
Do it.
If we would have taken the fault off of me.
Yeah.
And saw like, hey, what's happening that there's 3 Fs on this report card. Like, where's the disconnect? And I look at you as a teacher.
Thank you.
And first of all, I feel like the type of teaching you're doing is like one of the most rewarding things. I taught special needs for a little bit, and it was one of like my favorite moments of my life. And I think teachers like you and teachers like Miss Salazar, I had another teacher, Miss De Los Rios, who really appreciate what they do and love what they do and realize not every student is the same. your love for teaching came back when they called you for this
Yes.
specific role, because
Yes.
we were talking about how she swore you would never go back into teaching. I want to talk a little bit about that because I feel like you inspire me so much as someone who struggled so much in school, and I see how much you love your kids.
Yes.
When did you say, okay, I need to go back into teaching and I need to do it in a way that's different from what I've seen around me?
Okay, so I got very lucky because I got called to work at a school which the whole school embraces the Miss Salazar way of being. So we have that support. One reason I left the public school system is that it's very hard to be like a Miss Salazar the way that schools are set up right now. And it's something that needs to come from all the way at the top in order to get to the teachers. It's a reason why we have a lot of dropout, a lot of turnover. I literally had to leave the system because I would see my kids that are getting Fs that I would give Cs to because I'm like, why does he get an F? Pobrecito.
Yeah.
And then he would go to the third grade teacher and she would come back and be like, why does he have Cs? He doesn't know how to do this. And I'm like, I don't want to give him an F. Like, the system is working against him. So I left the school systems because of that, because I'm like, everything is set up for kids to fail. And so I worked for 6 years at the University of Miami in different education programs. And then when I got called back to teach in a classroom, I was like, I went in there and I was like, I'm going to give them an offer that they're going to have to deny. I'm not going back to teaching. I'm only doing this to satisfy my mom because my mom knew the director. And when they talked to me about the program, the school, the way everything is, I was like, oh my God, this is heaven. I want to work here. So I have the support from admin, from everybody, from the parents to be able to be a Miss Salazar in my classroom where everything is child focused, where there's no rush for anything because where are we going? Like, what is the rush?
Right.
I saw a movie a long time ago called The Race to Nowhere. And why are you getting Fs in the race to nowhere? Like, what is the point? You are so talented. You are so gifted in your ways. There's no reason for a sixth grader to be getting an F and like be getting in trouble.
Right.
Like for what?
Yeah.
So, and it's like the whole quote about like grading a fish or like judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree. Like that's not me. And if you put me in an environment like that, I'm not going to do well.
Yeah.
So that's why the public school systems for me was like a no. So that's why I'm very lucky to be in this private school. We teach, our whole school is for kids with special needs. My classroom is kids with Down syndrome and autism. And when I tell you, I love them to pieces.
Yeah.
And I am so lucky. And I'm going to be honest, and I don't know if my director is going to listen to this episode, but I went in being like, I'm only going to do this for 1 year and then I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
Like 4 weeks in, I was like,
I'm here for life.
You have to pull me out by my hairs from this place because I'm obsessed. Like, I'm obsessed with my kids. I'm obsessed with the fact that I get to express myself and my knowledge and my expertise in this creative way, and that I see the fruits of my labor being, these kids like flourish so much.
This was like 2018, 2019, I taught like a drama, like singing class for a while at a special needs school. And I had kids who were nonverbal, like would just come and at the end of the semester, they were singing the song.
There's nothing more rewarding than that.
Oh my gosh.
There's nothing more rewarding than that.
Nothing.
The other day they told me, because I'm on maternity leave right now, and the other day they told me that one of my students tried to bite my assistant. And I was like, really? That's amazing. What was he doing? And I was so proud because I'm like, he's like expressing
himself.
I was like, and they're like, don't be proud of him. And I'm like, I mean, if he keeps doing it, yeah, we'll be mad. But that, because she was like trying to take something away from him and he was like fighting and he just like went for it. I was like, my baby, good for him.
Good for him for defending himself.
Yes, I was so happy. That made me so happy.
Yeah, I don't think the school system and the education system is talked about enough. And you've talked about that on your socials.
Yeah.
And you've made it a thing to talk about because it's what you said. I feel like kids are set up to fail at some time.
Had he been a teacher in a public school, detention, this, that, whatever. And it's like, okay, let's look at, obviously I don't want him to go around biting everybody.
Right.
But why did he do it? What's it for? Okay, we'll redirect him later. But like, coño, like this is a kid who literally used to sit in the corner. Like you could pick him up, put him in another corner, and he wouldn't move from there.
Right.
And now he's biting somebody because he's mad. Like, let's celebrate that first.
Right. No, it's true. And it's like, I even think about it in college. You know, I went to a conservatory art school that they expected everyone to grasp everything all at the same time. And I remember sitting at home one day and thinking like, we're all different.
We're humans,
all learn
That's
differently.
Literally the point.
Like, can you imagine being kicked out of a place that you're just trying to learn as fast as you can?
And for something in a creative field.
Oh my God.
Because maybe I get it, like anatomy, you have to learn.
Right.
But like to sing, to act, like.
And again, I've always been very lucky that God and the universe always every now and then puts I call them like my angels in my way of like, I had I had a professor in college, Gail Garrison, who always was like, she'll get it. Just give her a second.
I love
she's gonna get it. So always having a person to be like, it's taking a second. It's taking some time. And Eddie and I talk about this all the time. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I have kids.
I tell you to say that.
Every time Betty posts something about like homeschool or something, I'm like, I can't wait to have a kid and send them straight to you because that's where they're going.
I was about to say that. I was about to segue into like, I hope parents listening to this adopt the same mentality. It is so important to do that for our kids and to realize even when they bring home like, I wish I could have been your aunt and uncle at that time because there have been times that my daughter brings home a D or an F and I look at it and I'm like, why? And not that I'm excusing D's and F's, right? If you got an F because you had this thing to study for and you didn't study at all, like that's a different question.
Right.
But one time my daughter got a bad grade in an art class because her drawing wasn't Picasso enough. Like that week they were studying Picasso. And she was like, I just don't like his style. And I'm like, why'd you get a C on this then? Who cares? Like, it's not even art school.
I'm very, very, very lucky that I have a mom who saw her daughter's talents.
Yeah.
So, for example, my older sister and my little sister were both school kids. Like they love school, they love learning, they enjoyed it. They didn't have a hard time. And then she saw me who did have a hard time, but I loved the arts. Yeah. And I loved performing. And that's where, and she's like, okay, so let me put her in all the programs. Let me make sure that she's doing. So I was very fortunate that she understood that school was hard. So when I would come home with a C, it's not that she like threw a parade for me. It was just like, good.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Exactly.
Like you did.
Have you seen that quote that it's like, if your kid is bad at math and good at tennis, get them a tennis coach?
That's the mom that until this day, she still is that. And it's funny because like my sisters will come home with a B and she was like, but why?
But why?
Why? Because she
knows their potential.
Yes.
She knows their
potential. She knew that them coming home with a B was because they were just like, okay, I just didn't want to really try.
Yeah.
Me coming home with a B was like, oh my, like good. And my sisters would be like, you're celebrating the B, but I wouldn't get a role in the show that I auditioned for. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
What happened? And I was like, Mom, it's not in my control. And she's like, try harder next time. Maybe you should have like, so she found her ways to be strict with us in the ways she had to be strict with us.
I love that.
You know?
I love that.
But I think about, okay, when I have to have a kid and I have to go through that, my God, if they come home and they're like, Mom, I can't do it, I don't want to go to school, I'm gonna be like, girl, I get it. Stay with me. But it's like, what advice do you have for someone who hated school so much? Like, and Eddie's not a school person either. So it's like two non-school kids who had a really hard time. He's dyslexic too. Like we both had a difficult time. And I think,
con Dios, that's my advice.
Thank God for my sisters.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard because it's like, I knew what a hard time I had.
Yeah, that's a really, really hard question. I would say give yourself grace and give your kids grace big time. And I want parents listening to understand when your kids come home with these grades, with this, give each other grace because the school system is set to fail.
Yeah.
So see first. And us as millennial parents and everything, we're a lot more involved and we're a lot more conscious and we're a lot more intentional about the way we raise our kids. So it's like, see why, see where they're coming from, and help them with your strengths and in the ways that you know, at the end of the day, maybe you and Eddie's kid is going to be like the next school nerd, teacher's pet.
No, my mom says it all the time. You're going to have a Natalia and they're going to be super into school. And I'm like, I hope so. But also like into the arts, please. Like, come on.
A little bit, yeah.
Give me a little acting and singing too.
Yeah. And time your kids for like, make them like be a Virgo or something so that.
Okay, don't play with me. I talk about this all the time.
Yep.
I went to a psychic once that I looked at her and I was like, if I'm gonna have a Gemini, can you just tell me? Like, just so I can,
me.
like, please. Which, listen, I love Geminis now.
You just don't you don't want to raise them, and that's okay.
I just like would rather raise a Capricorn or a Leo. You know what I mean? Listen, I'm a Leo moon. Give me a Leo girl.
That's why you love Layla so much.
I am a Leo.
That's why you and Layla are.
Oh my God, I am a Leo moon. Give me a Leo girl. I will make her a star.
Oh my, you and Layla. That's why you guys are
It's like this.
Oh my God, my Leo daughter. I'm like, why did I have I can't. But I'm an Aries.
Yes.
So I think that's like why we're like, oh my God.
Because your middle is a what?
My what?
Your middle child
is a Cancer. She's the last day of Cancer and Layla's the first day of Leo.
Oh.
Their birthdays are 3 days apart. So they're like both on the cusp.
Oh, yes. But you have a Cancer middle child. Okay. Just, you know.
Vaya con Dios me.
Yeah. Get ready. Because my mom having a Pisces middle child, I am sensitive. I am emotional. I am... Like, you need to talk to me a certain way.
Did you used to like to cry and like look at yourself in the mirror like, because that's my middle daughter.
I still cry and look at myself in the mirror.
She cries and she like walks over to the mirror and she's like,
The other day I was crying and I go to the bathroom and I was like, at least like I'm a pretty crier. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like at least I'm crying and I'm like, I can set up a phone right now and I'll look like cute. Pretty crying.
Yeah.
Which
I would never record myself crying. And I've seen your video. I've seen you and I'm like, she pulls it off. She pulls it off.
I've done the crying. You know what it is? And I've seen creators talk about this. They're like, you can never pay me to set up my camera and cry. And I'm like,
you could pay me.
You could pay me.
I just for free.
I just feel so vulnerable sometimes that I'm just like, I can't be the only one feeling like this.
Yeah.
So I need to put
that. And we love it.
Like I did the Christmas. Did you see my Christmas morning one?
Probably.
That one was
the one that I thought of recently is the Maid of Honor.
The Maid of Honor, but that one was funny. You know what I mean? Like the crying funny ones.
Oh, about
waking
how
up
your family.
Yeah. So I did one soup like I'll watch it now and I'll still cry.
Yeah.
I did one. If you don't follow me on TikTok, Hello, what are you doing? Go and follow us on TikTok. I did one that I was like, no one prepares you for waking up on Christmas morning without like your core family. Junior, tell me that doesn't like pull at your heart, dude. Waking up Christmas morning like without
Layla, that did like, because Layla wasn't home with me this year for Christmas. So when I saw you post that, I was like, what you just said, being vulnerable, I was like, okay, I'm not the only one by myself. And I wasn't by myself. I was with my two other kids.
And I was with Eddie. But it's
the fact that you wrote core family. I was like, okay.
I was like, and the older I get, the more I'm like, wait, we're never gonna be.
It's not gonna be 1999.
Yeah, ever again. Like I'm never gonna wake up and tell my sister like, oh my God, Santa Claus is here. Like, and that feels so weird because it's not something you think about when you're like growing up.
It's that quote of like one day you put your baby down and you never pick him up. So one day, I don't mean to make you cry, but one day you guys had your last Christmas like that and you didn't realize it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You don't. And I don't mean to quote Bad Bunny, but like
quote him.
Like tirar más fotos. You know what I mean? Like when that song came out,
the whole world sobbing.
Oh my God.
Whole world. He had people like translate the lyrics.
Which honestly, like when you listen to it the first time, you don't think of it as like.
But when you think about it.
But then when you think about it.
When you're driving and you're by yourself and you're like, oh my God.
No, I was listening to it the other day and I'm like driving and the part that goes, ojalá que lo mío nunca se mude.
Yes.
My little sister literally got up and so when I'm singing, ojalá que mío nunca se mude, I'm like, wait, mine did. Literally start sobbing. I take a picture of my sister and send it to her. I'm like, things that made me cry today. When I realized oh, mine actually did move.
Right.
She's like, that happens to me all the time. I transitioned into Bad Bunny because he's going to watch this pod.
Of course.
And I need him to know that we have Bad Bunny's biggest
right
fan.
Here. Right here. I don't even like show that off or anything because like I know in my heart that I am. So
No.
when people act like they're Bad Bunny's biggest fan, I'm like, pobrecito.
That's like me
doesn't know.
like me and Pitt. Like,
You can love him, but
you can
You're
love
not.
him. Like,
But you're
but
not me.
no one is gonna love Pitt the way that I
that's how I feel about Bad Bunny.
Love
and Cardi
it.
B. Have I ever told you my story of how I found Cardi B?
No.
So one day, remember how before you started, you're like, is any topic off
Yeah.
hand or what? I'm an open book. So one day I was having a panic attack, like a real panic attack where I had to call a hotline and everything because it
Okay.
was really, really bad. Oh, wow. I'm going to cry. It's happening. So one day I had a really, really, really bad panic attack. I was by myself. My oldest daughter, she was like 2, 3 years old at the time. She was like in the room sleeping and I went full panic attack. And I had to call this hotline and everything. And when I hung up, I was like breathing. I go on Instagram and I see a video of this crazy lady with like 40,000 followers. And I was like, who is this girl? Bad teeth, dreads, at a strip club. And I binged her whole page. And I laughed and laughed and laughed so much. And I was always like, Cardi was there for me that night of one of my worst panic attacks that I've ever had. And when I was in FSU, I used to have daily panic attacks, like daily to the point that I got shingles and from stress. And then I moved back home. I hadn't had a panic attack in 3 or 4 years. And then this happened. And then Cardi was there for me that night. So I'm always like, that's my girl that was there for me when no one else was.
And I think that's what the internet does for people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
if you
like-
know how to use it correctly,
If you know how to use it
if you know how
correctly,
to tread social media correctly,
it gives you this space of like you can disconnect from what's happening in your real world for a second and just be there, or you can find someone that you're like, oh shit, this
Me
is
too.
exactly how I
Yeah.
feel. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm not alone. Like,
yeah.
which is, I talked about this pod for a really long time. And a part of me was always scared to start it because I was always like, if I'm going to start a pod to talk about real life things, I have to be an open book.
Yeah.
And I have to talk about stuff, even if that puts me in like a weird like light. And the more I do it and the more messages I get of like, oh my God, thank you for sharing that because this is how I feel. Or thank you for sharing that because this is how I feel. Or hearing that calms me down for a second. So I love that you say that you, during your biggest panic attack, you were able to connect with someone that you were like, who is this
crazy
person?
lady?
I want to go back into social media and education and talk about that and talk about that niche and like how you realize, oh, I can use my education to like educate people, but also because you watch your videos and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It made me laugh, but now I left with the message. So how did you figure like that's what I want to do? And this is...
Yeah, so when I started college and even in high school, I would always say that I want to either be a teacher, a special education teacher, or I want to have my own talk show. And I know that those are like two completely different things, but that's just like, I was like, I either want this or this. Like growing up, I think you messaged me about this one time. My idol growing up was Lunette from the Big Comfy Couch. I was like, I want to be her. Or I would see like the humans in Sesame Street and I used to be like, I want to be that.
Yeah.
I met the guy who did Big Bird, like who would dress as Big Bird, and I sobbed when I met him at a Comic-Con. And I was like, because it's like my two loves, like education and being on TV. So I went the education route because like we were saying before, when I started college, social media wasn't that big of a thing yet. And I would have a lot of like, you're never going to make it on TV with your Miami accent, your Spanish accent. You have to move to the Midwest and neutralize your accent. And I used to be like, Missouri? fine, I'll be a teacher because I'm not going to Missouri.
And I'm not losing this accent.
And I'm not losing this accent for what?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't want to sound like the operator. So I went the education route, and then social media started becoming a thing. And I was like, oh my God, I can have both. I could have my cake and eat it too. I could be a teacher, and in the palm of my hands, I can have my own news show. And it was never a news show. I would always say, like, I want to be Salo Gigante. I want to be Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
I want to be Jimmy Kimmel. I don't want to be like giving I don't want to be giving the depressing news. I don't want to be scaring the abuelas. I want to be making people laugh. I want to happy cries.
Yep.
And so I started doing the social media thing. And like I said, I wasn't very consistent at first because I was still trying to like find my way, find my voice. And if you don't do it properly, and if you're not in the proper space, it can also send you down a different path. Like, I have had my breakdowns. I have had my mental health moments where I was like, I cannot be on. And I would take like 3-month breaks.
Yeah.
And I would take long breaks. So I'm like, I can't do this right now. But I'm in a place now, thanks to therapy, thanks to friends, thanks to owning my own space, that I know how to handle it. I know how to handle the criticism. I know how to handle seeing myself being vulnerable. So it's helped me be more consistent. And when I started doing like, okay, I'm in school, I'm in my classroom, it's my planning period, I'm done planning, what can I do right now in this teacher background? That's when I started finding my voice of like, okay, the funny Miami teacher, the funny Latina teacher, the funny Miami things. And through there, that evolved in that way.
And you mentioned like, okay, because for me, the consistency is what is me with the social media.
Yeah.
It's like, I find that I have weeks that I'm like super, like, I want to do all the content. But those are the weeks that my mental health is like, it's great.
Peak.
And I'm like, my mental health is amazing. I feel really good. I feel good in my body. I feel good in like just me in a whole. So creating content then is easy.
Natural.
But then there's times that my mental health is not great, that I'm not as happy and as like electric as I want to be to create content. You mentioned you're antidepressants. So like you struggle. I don't like to say struggle. You deal with mental health and you're on this journey. How do you find the balance of like when you're having a really hard day, but you realize I need to get content. I need to do that. How do you juggle mental health and social media? Because for me, that's been my hardest thing of like, I can't stay consistent because unfortunately my mental health is not this like straight, like, oh, okay.
No, and it's unpredictable.
Yeah, it's unpredictable. There's some weeks that I wake up that I'm like, look, this week is not it.
Yeah.
It's a harder week for me.
Yes.
So it's like, how do you do that? How do you?
That's a really good question. So, I give myself grace.
Yeah.
Going back to that statement. And I realize, and I don't let that make my mental health worse, because it's like, I don't put it in my head like, oh my God, if I don't make content this week, that's it. My life is over. You know, like the end of my career. I really had to teach myself that, because there would be weeks where I'd be like, okay, this isn't for me. I'm never gonna be this content creator because this week I can't. And luckily, something like content creation, unless you're like under an agent or something, you can ride with the ebb and flow.
Right.
As a teacher, if I'm having a bad day, I still have to go in. You could take mental health days, you know, you can. Luckily, even if I'm having a bad day, I'm telling you, that place is my bubble.
No,
that place is my bubble. So I go in and they make me happy. Like, as cheesy as it sounds, people are gonna.
I've known you for a while, and you have this different glow and energy towards you. And I think it's like what you say, when you find your space and what works for you.
And for so long, I fought it. For so long, I'm like, I'm not going to be a teacher. I can't be a teacher. They don't get paid. Da, 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 da. So I was finally like, I told my husband, like, you make the money because I'm going to go be a teacher. This is my fun money. You pay for everything else. Because with my teacher salary, I could get my hair, eyebrows, maybe my nails done, but you pay the bills. Thank you. So I, luckily I did find that space. So, but going back to the content creation, just working on myself as a whole. Yes. I found my therapist. I gave in, not gave in, but I finally realized like what my mental health, what my mind needs is to be on my antidepressants. So word up to them.
Were you against medication? And I think everybody is for a second.
Yeah, because there's like that stigma.
Right.
But, you know, my sister is a doctor. We always joke about, she's like, yeah, Big Pharma was here yesterday, you know, schmoozing me. Because, yeah, there is the stigma about medication, and that's a big, big decision to make. There's a lot of misinformation. But it's a very personal decision you have to make. And
sometimes, and I've explained this to like Eddie, and sometimes you just need a little help.
A little help.
Sometimes your brain chemistry is off, and no matter how hard we're trying, we need a little help, and we shouldn't feel bad for that.
Yeah, when I tell you that I tried meditation, books, journaling, and I still do all those things.
Yeah.
In addition to, and I think it came for me when I was like, okay, something's got to give. Was when it wasn't me by myself, where it was like, now I have anxiety, now I have depression and a kid and 2 kids and 3 kids. And I described it to my friend the other day like this. When Hurricane Irma came back in 2017, it was my first major hurricane as a mom. Okay. So before that, when a big hurricane came, it was like, my parents are dealing with it, whatever. Now I'm responsible for somebody's life. So that's how, you know, when my panic attacks would come, when my waves of depression, it was like, I don't have the choice to lay in bed all day. I got to get up and I got to make food for kids. I got to show up for my daughter. I got to be there for her. She's dealing with her own emotional stuff too. So I was like, all right, I got to do this for me. I got to do this for them. I got to do this for my husband. My Virgo Dominican husband, when I tell you, nothing bothers. I have tried to find things about. I have tried.
But he's always been so like.
No, when I tell you nothing, like, sir. The other day we were just sitting there and I was like, "Are you happy?" And he's like, "Betty, yes. Why wouldn't I be?" And I'm like, "I don't know, because you just never like talk. Like, are you okay?" So, you know, I had to make that choice to go to my doctor and be like, "All right, help me,
help me,
help me."
Yeah.
No. One time I was picking up my antidepressants with my daughters, and they were just being so bad at the pharmacy. And I was like 8 months pregnant, and they were being crazy. And the toddler threw my tweens. She threw a bracelet on top of one of the aisles.
Oh my God.
And it went flying, and I'm there like, "Hi, I'm here to pick up my meds for my..." I was like, "This is why I'm here."
This is why.
So it was so funny that I was like sending my best friend voice notes like, "And the girls are acting crazy in the waiting area of CVS pharmacy while I'm here to pick up my Celexa." Like, this is, yeah.
You know, and I think you mentioned being a millennial parent. And we've talked about it on the pod, because I've had friends who are already parents, who are millennial parents. And I think dealing with mental health and being a millennial parent, you just realize, like, at least for me, I'm like, wait, my mom was probably going through this.
Yes.
And like never said anything.
Yes.
Like I cannot imagine it. I can't imagine being a parent and not sitting down with my kids and being like, how are you feeling? Yeah. Do you find yourself taking parts of what your parents did raising you, but also being like, okay, not doing any of that. I'm doing this. What do you find different, and what do you find that it's like, and also including mental health in that? Because I mean, we didn't grow up talking about it.
Yeah. So I way overcompensate to the point that my husband, he's like, "You're not going to mess them up." Because sometimes I'll do things, and sometimes I'm like too nice. And also it's like, it's okay to yell at them sometimes. They're not going to be, because you know that TikTok trend now with Bad Bunny about like, un aplauso pa mami y papi porque verdad rompieron.
Yes.
I've seen the one that it's like, porque verdad rompieron mi salud mental. And I'm like, that's me. And so, you know, I grew up with lots of trauma, lots of things that messed me up. So my big thing is like, I can't mess up my kids. But then it's also like, but they need a little bit of resilience.
Yeah.
And me and my sister have talked about it. Like, how do we spoil our kids, but not let them grow up spoiled?
Right,
like,
right.
How do you find that balance? And I haven't figured it out. So if you do and you become a mom,
And
let me know.
I think my mom had two different approaches. My mom wasn't old school. Also, it's different. Like, I didn't grow up in a mom-dad household. It was my mom and the three of us. So ours was more like a sister sometimes, which is also not great. Like, you know, you have to be like, Mom, stop. Don't like talk to me like we're siblings. But it taught me a lot of different things. It taught me that she did put herself like first. But I wonder if her mental health suffered because of it.
Yeah.
You know?
My mom one time told me the line, it's better to come from a broken home than to live in one. And I always want to make sure that my oldest daughter sees that because she's like the stepchild.
Right.
And I work very hard for her to realize like, you're not.
Right.
Like, you're very included and you're all here. And what you're saying, like, I want my kids to know, like, it's okay to have bad days.
Yeah.
I am going to always put you guys first, but there's also me.
Yeah.
So there's times that I tell my husband, I'm like, I need to go take a nap. I need to go lock myself in the room. And he does really good at, like, telling the girls, like,
hey.
And sometimes I have broken down and cried, and my 3-year-old will be like, why are you crying? And I just tell her, like, Mommy has a boo-boo. I'm not there, like, because I just got triggered. And, you know, like, age appropriate also.
Right.
And I tell her, like, I have a boo-boo right now. And now sometimes she'll be like, do you have a headache? And I'll be like, yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
Deeper headache.
No, and I think it's funny because JC, one of our, like, you met him downstairs, one of my bosses. You know, he's one of the big guys here in Cultura Media. He's very traditional with, like, you know, you reprimand them when they need to be reprimanded, you this. And his wife is more of like, well, let's sit down. Like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Why did you?
That's me and my husband.
Yeah, and I feel like Eddie and I are going to be more of that, of like, okay, hold on. I know that you're crying. I want to cry too. Why is it that we're crying? And my mom was like, yeah, okay, when they're having a tantrum, that's not going to work. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like...
Yeah, there's moments.
Yeah.
There's moments because you have to be in a certain space to hold that space for them. And there's just sometimes where everybody's just yelling at each other. But I think as millennials and doing that thing where, like, how do millennials bring mental health into it? I think we're really good at coming back and being like, I'm sorry all of that happened. Let's talk about it. And I do that, especially with the older one, where it'll be like, okay, mama, like, next time that happens, how are we going to deal with it different? And I model for Josue because, again, Josue is the one that's like, no, and sometimes we come back to it and even he'll say it, you know, like, and I'm modeling to him. We model for each other. Right. He's modeling to me how to be stricter and how to be more like, you're not going to mess them up.
Yeah.
And I'm also modeling for him, like, all right, but we got to do things a little bit differently than our parents.
Yeah. No, and it's true. And it's like, because I don't want my mom to see this and be like, oh my God. And she didn't. My mom did an amazing job raising 3 girls, like, by herself. Like, there's times that I think about it and I'm like, damn, that must have been really, really hard. But I also wish that we would have talked about mental health more. And talked about, like...
Yeah, and she was doing the best she could at the time because Latina in the 90s.
And she was the one who was like, I'm not going to raise my girls the way my mom raised me.
It trickles down little by little.
My grandma was... Her and my grandmother have their own relationship, their own story to tell. That we have a different relationship to her, but that was always her thing of like, I don't want to raise my kids like that. I want to raise my kids that they feel good, and we could. Anything that happens to us. Yesterday I had a panic attack. The first person I called was my mom, you know? And she's getting to the place now. I think in the beginning when I talk about this in my first episode, but when I went to the psych unit, I think that was a shake for everyone. Yeah. Like everyone in the family.
And like one of those, like, this is possible for anybody.
For anybody. This can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter what. And I think
that's why I talk about mental health so much, and I bring so many different people on the show that have so many different have a different view with mental health. It's because it comes in so many different packages.
Yeah.
Mental health comes in different ways. It does not discriminate.
No.
It doesn't care what a beautiful life you have.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, you look at it and you look at your life and you're like, I prayed for these moments. I prayed
100%.
for these things. But at the same time, there's days that I do feel sad.
And that's okay.
And that's totally okay. And there's some days that I feel angry for some reason and I'm not sure why. And I think having grace with yourself, which is something that you say a lot, and having grace with yourself as a parent. Is
in this day and age.
In this day and age, and raising kids to be good kids, especially in this world with everything that's happening. And I just want to say that your content and who you are as a person is inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you. Like every time I talk to people and they mention your name, it puts a smile on my face because, hold on. I think if anyone deserves like success and anything, it's you, because you've always been someone who gives people their flowers.
Thanks.
You've always been someone who like, you support no matter what. You support everyone. And I'm so, every time I see your videos go viral or I see like people pick up your videos, I'm like, if anyone deserves it,
thank you,
it's
Marcela.
you. It really is. And
you know, I've been like recognized a couple times, like Target restaurants here or there. And my husband's friend asked me the other day, like, do you like that? Do you like when people come up? And I'm like, you know what? Not in like a cocky way, but yes, because every time somebody has said something, it's like, oh my God, I'm a teacher and your videos make me so happy. So it's like, I like that I'm being recognized. Like when people say things, it's like happy. And it's like this happy tone. And I'm like, that's what I want to give to people.
Yeah.
And when I hear feedback like that, I'm like, okay, I'm doing something
right.
No,
and keep doing. I'm telling you, every time you post videos and you're so, when you're consistent, and it's like, damn, dude, if Betty can do it and fucking kill it and
thank you for
be a
saying
super
that.
mom, be a super content creator, like just do it all. Me and Lucy talk about you all the time. And like, you're killing it. You're an inspiration.
Right back at you, girl.
Thanks.
That's how I felt about you when you opened your podcast, when you started it. It was that feeling of like, if anyone's going to kill it in that avenue, it's going to be Marcela. She has found her voice. She has found her place. She knows what she's doing. So I feel like reflect that right back at you.
And I feel like you and I need to get back on the camera together. Like, I feel like when we were on camera together, it was amazing. So who knows, 2025 here in Cultura Media House, I feel like Betty Pastelito
Can you imagine Pitbull and Bad Bunny talking to each other? That's what this is right now.
Literally, it's Pit and Bunny talking to each other.
Yes.
And if they want to come and collab with us,
we would love it.
We would love
it. Like, anytime.
Like,
I would leave my kids in the street.
I'll leave Eddie wherever you want. Wherever you want, Chico. You let me know. Thank you for being here with me today.
Of course. Thank you, Marcela.
I love you so much.
I love you too. This was amazing.
I can't wait to see what 2025.
And your hair's so shiny.
Oh, thank you. I'll send you my shampoo regimen. I change it every now and then.
I love it.
I wash my hair just for you today.
I love that.
I love you. Thank you. Yay!
Yay!
That was great.
Oh my God, I'm doing that thing where it's like, it was cold when I left my house.